welcome back to my channel. It is of course Chelsea of She Designs Things. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you all about how I create my 2-column design layout. Now, I've talked about how I wouldn't share how I do it in the past, but I've decided, I design other really cool things in Google Sites and other platforms, so it's totally okay for me to share it now. All right, so if you want to know how I get the 2-column design layout for a mobile device using Google Sites, then of course, keep on watching. So first things first, I am using a example. This is Hello Teacher, which is a site that is available in my Etsy store. And so if you were interested in purchasing Hello Teacher, that is where you can buy it. It is available for a discount for those of you who are in teaching. Now, Hello Teacher does feature some pretty cool aesthetics. It features in the background my grid layout, which I will not be sharing. However, I will be sharing the 2-column design. So the reason I want to share the 2-column design is because it's not a complicated thing to achieve. It's just how do you want to achieve it? It can be tricky to navigate how to lay out 2-column designs in Google Sites. And I just wanted to make it really easy for those of you who were interested in creating that sort of 2-column design or 2-column layout. So again, this is Hello Teacher, but I am going to show you some other examples using some wireframes that I've created. So this is Wireframe 1886. And we see here, I do have a 2-column design here. Not only do I have a 2-column that goes back and then forth down, so sort of a bouncing sort of triangle layout, and then finishing it off with a paragraph. I do also have 2 photos here, 4 photos across here, just so you can really get an idea for how many columns you can have on a mobile view for your Google site. And it's going to be up to 4 columns. So why is it up to 4 columns? I want to make this as easy to understand as possible. So here, let's just take a look at this section here. So I'm highlighting this blue section just so you can see. In this section, I have a multitude of images. We see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These 12 images are situated within the 12 columns that we have for this Google site. So what does the maximum column allow in your Google site? 12. And why is it 12? Well, Google Sites uses a Flexbox. All right, so what is a Flexbox? A Flexbox is actually short for Flexible Box Layout. It's a special way to arrange things like text, images, buttons inside of a container on a web page. It makes it much easier to design layouts that adjust automatically to different screen sizes, like making your website look, good on both a computer and a phone. So a simple way to think about it is imagine you have a box, and inside that box you have several items. Flexbox lets you control how those items are spaced. So how they grow and how they shrink, how they wrap into new lines without needing to write a ton of complicated code. Now, with a Flexbox, you can align items horizontally or vertically. Now, this will also make sure that the items stay centered, even if you're using a different screen size. And you can create layouts where elements such as stretch, shrink, or stay in place depend on the space available. So that's why when Google decided to make the different widths for their Google sites, it was sort of a big deal because you were able to change the spacing in between each column in the Flexbox. All right, so let's take a look at achieving that 2-column design for your mobile device. Now, this can be done very simply. Just remember that you need to have an equal number of elements in order for you to achieve a 2-column design. So they need to be equal, and they also need to be spaced close together. So let's take an example here. I'm going to duplicate this first section, and then across the top, I'm going to delete this text, delete this image, and delete this image here. And I'm also going to delete this one. Now that only leaves us with these here, a photo, and then we have this block of content, which is of text, which are technically 2 separate text boxes. Now let's see what happens when we take a look at it on a mobile device. It still places them right next to one another. It still places them right next to one another. And of course, it still places them right next to one another. Now, what were to happen if we were to move this all the way away from the very first image? We just moved it all the way to the side. Do we think that it's going to appear side by side on a mobile device? Yes, it is. And the reason is we're ignoring the columns in the middle because they contain no content. So because they contain no content, it's going to shift them close to one another. So when you see it on a desktop, it's going to look like they are very far apart. But the moment you look at it on a mobile device, they're going to appear right next to each other because again, mobile device, smaller screen size, it's going to create a shift, and that's just how it's written for its Flexbox. Now, you can design a Flexbox of your own with different parameters. However, this is just the way that Google's has set theirs up to allow it to automatically adjust to screen size. That's why it's important to understand placement in your website and your web design. So let's take this first image, and now we're going to, instead of leaving it as 2 columns, let's set it to be 3 columns. We're going to make it 3 columns wide, and let's see if that's going to make a change. So we'll click preview. Now we see here on a mobile device, because it is 3 columns and this is 2 columns, it is no longer going to show up as a side-by-side sort of comparison. Now, what were to happen if we were to, adjust this to be also 3 columns wide? Do you think that it's going to show up as side-by-side on a mobile device? No, it is not. And the reason is we have to consider the mathematics, the visibility of the number of columns. We're going from 3 columns, and then we have 3 columns, and we have empty columns or empty spaces left over. We have 6 empty spaces left over. We do not have a proportionate number to shift when we're on a mobile device to create that 2-column layout. This is again why placement is important and a little bit of math. So let's go ahead and see if we can get this 2 sections to be side by side, even though they're smaller, and maybe make it look, a little bit better on a mobile device. We can't do it in its current format. 3-column width does not allow for that shift. Now, what if we were to set these to 4 columns each? So 4 and then 4. Let's make sure I got 4 columns because at first I was not paying attention. 4 and 4. The only thing we did was enlarge the way that it looked. We gave nothing for it to shift to being, the size that we want. Now let's take these boxes and duplicate them. And because we end up having, 4 columns remaining, let's shift these all the way over to the side. Now we have a section of 3, 3, and 3. Anyone who's ever designed in a Google site knows that a three sections within your Flexbox is not going to create the design that you want. It's going to look just stacked on top of each other. So what if we were to make this smaller, only 2 columns wide? It doesn't matter where you shifted it at this point, but just 2 columns wide. Only thing it did was make the image smaller and again, stack it directly underneath it. Now, what if we were to do the same thing and shift this to be 3 columns instead of 4? Now again, we have the numbers off. The math isn't going to math because it's not possible to take this number of columns and stack them right next to each other because again, it's a little bit of math and it's about being divisible. All right, so before I go ahead and let you go, let's do a little pop quiz. So I'm going to show you some of my designs. These are wireframes, and then I'm going to show you some layouts. And I want you to be able to determine whether or not if it's going to provide you with a 2-column layout on a mobile device. So let's start with this one, Wireframe 2023. So we see here that we have this large image, and then we have the text box right next to it. Scrolling down, an image, image, text, 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 image, image. You see where I'm going here? So there's a lot working on this page. So will it create that 2-column shift? Now, for this quiz, it doesn't matter what box. All I'm saying is there anywhere on the page that it's going to provide a 2-column layout. So let's take a look at it on a desktop view. and then a phone. So I'm going to start from the bottom. We can see in the bottom, scrolling up, we have that text. We have the two images, they stack on top of each other. But so far, we don't have a 2-column design. So this one is no. So no, you cannot achieve a 2-column layout with a design like this. While it looks beautiful on a desktop, it is not designed for mobile. It's designed to look like a newsprint. Next, we have Wireframe 1607. So this one's a little bit tricky, only because it's very short. Well, let's look at it. We have the cover image, the text, but so far, no 2-column design. So this one is also no. This is Wireframe 1560. We have text, an image block with no actual image, text along the side, and then text, again, an image block. And this is actually one of my free designs that is available as a part of the sign up for my email. So we see here, lovely layout, image on the side, long text block down the center. It spans the entire center of the page. Now, what does it look like on a mobile device? This one is sort of a trick question. So when we look at it in the mobile view, it lays out like a standard newsprint would if you're reading an article. What's interesting is that as we're scrolling, that long text block decided that it wanted to create the actual word instead of going straight down. This is something that you can do to add a little bit of flair to your site. If you wanted to have, say, a design or an element that was long down the center of the page, you can actually just take it, drag it down the center like I did here with the text. And then on a mobile device, it's going to correct itself because, again, there is no space between these elements in this Flexbox. And so for this one, it does not create that 2-column design. It is actually done like that on purpose. All right, so this is Wireframe 3040, and I really love this design. So let's see if it will create that 2-column design at any point on the site. So scrolling through, we see the full design. So does it create the 2-column design at any point? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at that mobile view. Scrolling down, I really love this design, by the way. And we get it. The 2-column shift is here. It is present on this page. Now, is it located anywhere else in this design? So just keep on scrolling, and no, it does not. So let's go ahead and take a look and see why it does create that 2-column layout in this section here, but nowhere else on the page. It's very simple. We have an even number of elements in this box. So this is the box in which it creates that 2-column design. We have the image here, which is 4 columns wide. Yes, 4 columns wide. We have the text 2 columns wide, and the text here is 2 columns wide. A 4-column design here. What that did was create an equal number for this layout. You see, an equal number is necessary for us to create, again, that 2-column design. We have an equal number of both. Now, let's say, for example, we were to delete one of these in here. Do you think we would still get the 2-column design? So there's only one way to know. I already know the answer to that is no, but let's click delete. And we are going to take a look at it on that mobile view, scrolling down, and it's gone. We no longer have the 2-column design. Again, we don't have an equal number of elements inside of the container. So it's not possible for the math to compute it out as a 2-column layout. So that one doesn't work. Now, before I let you go, this is just something I want to point out. So you can also use GIF images in your design. So I like to use them in various places, but in this, my limited release shop, you do see here in the Jasmine Earl selection, I have a scroll going by of the actual Jasmine Earl layout. I don't do this all the time. I don't recommend having it all over for your Google site, but it does add a little bit of animation to your design. You can also use Lottie files if you're more comfortable, so I just wanted to really point that out. That being said, I do hope this video was helpful in clarifying how to get a 2-column design. If you have any other design questions for your Google site, just go ahead and leave it down below. And comment one of your favorite Google site designs that I've created, or if you don't know that I make Google site designs, don't forget to check out shedesignsthings.com or by going to my limited release shop, which is actually limited.shedesignsthings.com. All right, thanks again so much for watching, and I don't know how to end these things, so see ya.